Well, we are, believe it or not, ending the story of Abraham. Shocker. We are concluding, but what's going to be a little odd today, we're going to try to get through. Pat's already looking nervous. No, we're flying. We are strapping, we're flying. We're getting through 100 chapters. We are not going to read them all, so I would encourage you later this week, today, go and read and kind of meditate on those. And so we're going to do some summary because this last section here really functions as almost like this concluding, almost epilogue. The climax of the story of Abraham has already happened. Like we've already crescendoed with, finally, the birth of Isaac 2 weeks ago, and this last kind of big test of Abraham with him sacrificing, offering to sacrifice his son. And now we get, like, what's next? I love this in a movie. I don't know if you like this in movies where it concludes, but it like tells you what happens to the characters. I think of movies like Sandlot, right? That you get like this jump forward and you get Squints marrying the lifeguard. You get Benny, who's really fast, right? He actually makes it in the pros. And then Smalls, who's been the narrator the entire time, is now the announcer for his games. You see this in movies. I just finished watching Harry Potter with Kobe. We watched the last one last night. I was like, come on, I got church in the morning. We got to end this. We need to end. The end is Harry all grown up. He's married, and he's dropping his kids off at 9 3/4 station, just like how kind of the movie opened. And I'll give you one more because I know we have some parents whose kids love How to Train Your Dragon. The conclusion of How to Train Your Dragon is once again the main character, Hiccup, with his children, now much into the future, going and visiting the dragons kind of like once more. And it's kind of this cool like scene at the very end. And so that's what we get. We get the crescendo, the climax of Abraham, with Abraham and Isaac on Mount Moriah. And now we get what happens, like what's the conclusion of all of these characters. And really, even maybe a little deeper, is what's the conclusion of the promises? Remember, we've had promises that you will inherit the land, that your seed coming after you will then become a great nation, and then you'll actually be then lastly kind of a blessing to all the nations. In fact, remember, Abraham being renamed is not just exalted father, he's now the exalted father of the nations. But we're still kind of waiting. And so in chapter 23, again, this is a jump ahead about 37 years from the birth of Isaac, because we're told in 1:2, Sarah lived to be 127 years old, and she died at Kirith Arab, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. So we jump ahead. Now, the jump is probably about 24 years. Some argue Abraham's like Isaac's 13 when they go to kind of offer him on the mountain. So, but either way, he's 37. Isaac's 37 at this point. So we're much into the future. And Sarah dies. And it says Abraham is weeping over her, and now he has to decide where to bury her. This is, as a pastor, you walk through this with families when loved ones die and trying to plan funeral arrangements. And if you've ever had to do that or be a part of it, difficult, right? It's normally never when you timed it out. It's always inconvenient, right? It's just because nobody plans to die. And then, at this point in history, it's not like you have, like some people have, like, oh, I have my burial plot all, like, planned out. Like Isaac, remember, Abraham is in a land. He's away from his family. He's went to this new land. And so where do I bury her? Like, do I take her back to where my family is? Do I bury her in the backyard? Where do we bury her? And so this is a big question. And so it says that he goes to the town where he's living, and he goes and he says to the Hittites, which are the people that he's living with, not his people, right? Because he's a foreigner, and he says, I'm a foreigner, right? Like, I came to this place. I need somewhere to bury my wife. Will you sell me a plot of land so I can bury her? I'm a foreigner. I don't own any of this land. This is all yours. Can I buy some from you? Interesting enough, the Hittites then replied to Abraham in 5 and 6, and they see him differently. They say, Sir, listen to us. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. Because remember, Abraham has gotten extremely wealthy. He has amassed people to himself, right? This is not just Abraham, Sarah, and their son Isaac. This is servants, and we're talking hundreds of people. We're talking tons of livestock and animals, of tons of money, because I lied about or twisted the truth about my wife twice, and somehow I made money off that deal. And so they see him, and then, I almost forgot. Isn't he the guy that defeats the 5 kings from the east? Remember the 5 kings from the east that come and destroy everybody? Well, he's the one that conquers them. Oh, and isn't he also the one who is in communion with God, the same God that destroyed several of these cities? To the people, they're like, you're a prince, take anything you want. Anything you want, you can have. He's wealthy, he's respected, he's influential. He's a prince, and he's been promised all the land by God, and yet he owns none of it. And he wants to buy some. He says, nope, I don't want you to give me the land. I want to buy it. And there's this one plot of land. Would you talk to the guy? His name is Zohar. He's the son of Zohar. He's not Zac Efron, but his name is Ephron, son of Zohar. And he has a land in Machpelah, and that's what I want. There's a field, and at the end of the field, there's a cave. Can I buy it? Go talk to him for me. We find out that this is all happening kind of at the city gates. The city gates would be almost like the courthouse of today. It's where decisions made. It's where you even read later in the book of Judges, Deborah, who was an actual judge, would hold court where? At the city gate. This is where all the things happen. And Ephron is in the crowd as Abraham is talking to him. And he said, Abraham, take it. It's yours. You can have it. And again, Abraham goes, no. I want to buy it. Let me buy it. And then Ephron's like, well, I mean, what's 400 shekels of silver between friends? This isn't, I don't know what your threshold would be, but mine would be like, what's $20 between friends? I would never say, what's 100,000 between friends? Do you have those friends? If you do, invite me over. I will smooth them and try to become friends. Like, the amount of money he says that the land is worth is exorbitant. Almost as if he's now maybe getting ready to barter with Abraham. You know what Abraham says? Great, 400 shekels of silver, I'll pay it. Weigh it out. It says he brings the money in front of everyone. They weigh it out to the standards of the people, and he buys the land. He wants nobody to be able to say he stole it, he manipulated them somehow, or it was like a temporary gift. No, he pays the price in full, and he is the owner, and it is undisputable. And then the final verse of the chapter in verse 20 says, the field and the cave in it were deeded to Abraham by the Hittites as a burial site. The whole chapter, if we were to read it, and maybe you're like kind of scanning it as I'm going along, is odd. It just names the people over and over, the price over and over, the land. Oh, who does the land own? Who owns the land? Oh, it's Ephron, son of Zohar. How much did he pay? And it almost reads as like a deed that's being written up. That who are the witnesses? How much was the property? Where did this take place? Like, who co-signed this? And at the end of it, it's undisputable that Abraham has purchased this field and this cave to bury Sarah. I sit there and go, why add this to the Bible? There's a lot in there. Like, I understand, where Jesus gets buried. Okay, that's kind of important. Or, but like, who cares? Who cares where she's buried? But the theological point that is being pushed for us not to miss, is that this is the first time that Abraham owns any section of the promised land. It is the first taste of what God promised to his descendants. Remember, God kept saying, your descendants will take the land, they'll take the land. Abraham goes, well, how do I know they'll take it, right? Like, he's worried about this. Will this God actually be faithful? And so he gives Abraham, even though it is with the death of his wife and it's a burial plot, it is like the taste of what's to come. My kids, I like to give them taste tests of things. As a kid, I loved getting a taste test, especially if it was brownies, cookie batter, right? Can I lick the spatula? Can I dip my finger around the bowl, right? Like, I want a taste test. Kobe will constantly come up to me, Dad, is a taste test ready? Sometimes I give it to him and it's not ready at all. And he's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't ready, buddy. And sometimes he'll taste it. He's like, oh, that's good. I cannot wait for dinner. This is how they get you when the malls were more prominent and had food courts, and the Asian restaurant would be there and they'd have the little piece of teriyaki chicken. Do you know what I'm talking about on the two? Oh, and as a kid, you walk by like 6 times hoping that they give you the taste test, right? But then you taste it and you want more. And so then, hey, come and buy, double portion of chicken. I don't know if this is the perfect illustration, but I think it's helpful that Abraham is getting a taste of the future promise. The question even asking you, like, how has God been faithful to you? Like, does God give you a taste of his faithfulness? And maybe it's not kind of all the way where you want it to be, but can you look and go like, oh, God is being faithful and he's letting me taste and see his goodness, his faithfulness to me. And so when we look at the story, you're like, well, how are they gonna get the land? You jump forward in time to the death of Sarah, which is tragic, and yet there's a taste of God's faithfulness to Abraham. It's kind of story 1 in 23. And then in 24, we get this next section. It is the longest book in the Torah. That's the first 5 books of the Bible. It's, I think it's 67 verses. It's so long, guys. And here's the part. They repeat the story 3 different times. It's the opposite of, if you've ever read the Gospel of Mark, Mark is notoriously known for how short it is and how he doesn't give details. And you're like, well, what happened here? Can you give me a little bit more? This is the opposite. Let me give you everything. And in case you missed it the first time, let me repeat it 2 more times for you. And so here's how this starts. In Genesis 24, verse 1, Abraham was now very old. and the Lord had blessed him in every way. Again, God has blessed him with a son that he thought he would almost never have, right? He waited 25 years for. He's now become wealthy and blessed. He has now actually owned a piece of property of the land, this field and this cave. But what's going to happen to Isaac? Isaac's now between 37 and 40, and he's not married yet. Like clock is ticking, 37 to 40. This is old, especially for that time frame. Maybe not for us today, but he's getting up there. He has no wife. Abraham now has no grandchildren that are coming from the chosen line. Remember, Isaac is the chosen child that is going to be through him, and his line is the covenant blessing, but he doesn't have anyone. He has no wife. So Abraham goes to his servant. Some speculate that this is Eliezer. If you remember way earlier, just a little fun fact where before Isaac was born, Abraham's like, I'm going to give everything to Eliezer because he's like my head servant. Many commentators would go, oh, maybe this is probably Eliezer because he is the head servant. He has been with Abraham and he is given this most important task. And he comes and he says, here's the task. I need you to go back to where I came from. I need you to go back to my land, to my people. I need you to find my people. And there's no Ancestry.com where you look things up and it shows you where I need you to go and travel there. Mind you, this distance is probably like us to New York City. Between 500-600 miles. I need you to go travel there, and I need you to find a wife for my son. And then bring her back. Don't take him with you. So what is he doing? Gonna, etch a sketch in the sand what he looks like? I mean, there's no pictures. There's, go. And he goes, well, what if she won't come back with me? What if I get there, this is even in theory that I can get there, that I'll find her, and then I can convince her to come back with me. And he goes, if she won't come back with you, the deal's done. You did everything I asked, you're good. So then scripture says he reached in his thigh, and that was the kind of custom for even oaths, and we would say a handshake. They would grab the inner thigh as a symbol of this is the covenant, very strange between two men, but this is what's happening. And he says, I'll go and I'll find her. And Abraham is convinced, he says, that the angel of the Lord will go before you, that this is going to happen. And so, let me find where I'm at. Let me just read you how Abraham responds then really specifically. Here's what he says in 7 and 8. The Lord, the God of heaven, who brought me out of my father's household and my native land, and who spoke to me and promised me an oath, saying, to your offspring I will give this land, he will send his angel before you so that you can get a wife for my son from there. If the woman is unwilling to come back with you, you will be released from this oath of mine. Only do not take my son back there. Abraham is convinced that this is the land. He has buried his wife. If you have lived in other places, you could see how difficult this is. If you go, someone dies, where do I bury a loved one if I don't want to bury them somewhere where no family's ever going to be, right? Does that make sense? And so again, him burying Sarah is saying this is the land. And then he goes, don't take my son back there under no circumstances. I don't know if he's going to like it more or what, or sometimes men end up where their wives' families are. It seems like that's sometimes the case. So they're not going. Do not take him. Do not take him there. God has sworn to me that this is the land, and the promise is for here, bring her back. If this doesn't happen, you are released, but he's confident that this is going to happen. So the servant, he loads up all the camels, 10 camels, full of jewelry and silver and gold and clothing and provisions. And they start off. And as he goes along, right, doesn't really tell too much of the travel, but you can be reminded, this isn't like, take, Highway 80 through Pennsylvania to get to New York City. That's a terrible road. This is traveling in the wilderness in some ways, right? In between cities and stops and making your way back to this land to a people that you've never met, that you don't even know. You don't even know how to get there. So he goes and he travels and he finally gets to the area where he should be and he starts praying and he starts asking God. He's like, God, you're going to have to give me a sign. Can I ask you this? Can I ask you this? He finds this spring, this well. He says, a woman who comes out, and if she gives me a drink of water, and then she waters all my camels, that will be the sign that she's the keeper. I don't know if you ever were encouraged to look for signs when you were looking for a spouse. I think of, I like movies. There's one's called A Bronx Tale. It's with Robert De Niro. And in it is about this boy kind of growing up in the old-time Bronx in New York City and kind of getting in with the mob. And at one point, the head mob guy, Sonny, says to see the young boy, he's taking this girl out on the date, and he said, here's the test. You go to the car, you go to her side, you unlock the door. Remember, there's none of these clickers back then. You unlock the door, you let her in, you close the door, and as you walk around the car, you look in through the back window, and you see if she reaches over to unlock the driver's side door. If she does, shh, you got a good one. And so in the movie, then the boy goes out on the date with the girl. The car's locked. He opens it, and then he walks around watching. Is she gonna reach the door? And of course, she reaches over, pops the lock, and he's like, "Yeah!" And then he gets in because she passed the test. And so this is the servant of Abraham praying to God and going, God, if this was so, would this happen? And it says before he even gets done praying, before he finishes, this beautiful girl comes. And she's got this jar on her shoulder, and she's coming for water. And as he asks for a drink from her, she not only gives him a drink, but then says, goes and waters all of the camels. Well, how much water can a camel drink? A lot. It's 20, 30 gallons if Google is correct. But she goes, and now there's 10 camels, and she's watering. And it says that, which is not creepy, but it sounds it to me, it's like he's watching her intently water the camels. Are you going to water each one of them? And it says she waters all of the camels. So then he comes to her, and he presents her with jewelry and bracelets and a nose ring. And then he says, is there room in your father's house? For me to stay, which is kind of common, hospitality at this point. She's already shown immense generosity, serving to draw all this water for all of his animals, all of his camels. And so she goes, yeah, there's plenty of room. And she says who her father is. And it comes out that she is the granddaughter of Abraham's brother. If you remember, Abraham in the genealogies has two brothers. One of them dies, who was the father of Lot, and so then Abraham takes care of Lot. And then Nahor is his other brother who stays in the land, and he is married and has children, and his granddaughter is now a girl named Rebecca, and this is who the servant interacts with at the well. You can imagine now as he finds this out, this is God being faithful. This is God showing, yes, this is the one. And so he goes back and he tells the whole story. Literally, it's like word for word of everything him and Abraham did. Let me tell it to you all again. Let me go through all of the details. Let me tell you about how I prayed, what I asked for, and then Rebecca just comes waltzing out of the town right at the right time. I didn't even finish praying and she's already here. And then she does everything I asked about. My master has been blessed and is looking for a wife for his son. And they go, this is obviously from the Lord. And she'll go and she'll marry Isaac. And so he then gives them all sorts of gifts, all the things that the camels were loaded with, the gold and the incense and all the good stuff. Here you go. Here's the blessing, and now I'm going to take her back. And so in the morning, he goes, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take her back. And they're like, this is a little quick, right? Like, why don't we let her stay a couple days, right? Let her stay, and then you can go. And the servant goes, no, I need to head out right away. I need to go. And it's very unique in that the brothers and the father decide, they go, we're going to ask Rebecca. Culturally, very male-dominated, heavy. They made more of the decisions in the family, and they say, no, we're actually going to ask Rebecca. We're going to ask Rebecca, does she want to go to a land that she does not know, to then go marry this person she doesn't know? And you've heard all the evidence of how God is setting this up, and they say, will you go? And she said, I will. I'll go. This is setting up as though she is in some ways functioning just like Abraham when he was first asked to go to a land he doesn't know, to go to a place he doesn't know, to leave his family behind. And Rebecca is now set up as a female version of Abraham, of being asked to go, to leave your family to this new land. The servant sees all of this as being divine. Genesis 24, 26, and 27. Then the man bowed down and worshiped the Lord, saying, praise be to the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not abandoned his kindness and faithfulness to my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on a journey to the house of my master's relatives. You could look at this and go, boy, didn't he get lucky? Maybe like the camels sniffed out the right path somehow. Wasn't it a coincidence that you got to the well right as Rebecca needed to go get water? Like, you could chalk a lot of this type of thing because, again, we don't have any big divine speech. Right? Did you know there's no big divine speech? There's no this God coming down like he did with Abraham at times where, like, I have this miraculous child born or a ram caught in the thickets. No, this is the servant obeying Abraham, Abraham's trusting of God's faithfulness that he will guide and direct this, that none of this is chance or luck. This is God's providence. John Calvin, an old-time voice of the Protestant Reformation, his quote is said this: nothing is more absurd than that anything should happen without God's ordaining it, because it would then happen without any cause. Nothing is more absurd than that anything should happen without God ordaining it. God is working through all of this to secure, to provide a wife for the chosen line, Isaac, who will eventually have a child, who will have a child, who will have a child, who will have a child, child, until we end up with Jesus, the true promise of the seed that would come from the woman to crush the head of the serpent. And so the story concludes with her saying, yes, I'll go. I'll go back with you. Her family then blesses her. Again, mirrors how God ends up blessing Abraham when he chooses to go on this journey to an unknown land. Her family says this in 60. And they blessed Rebekah, and they said to her, our sister, may you increase to thousands upon thousands. Sound familiar? May your offspring possess the cities of their enemies. This mirrors the same type of language that Abraham is blessed with. But here is kind of the fascinating piece that ties the last story and then the previous one together. As they bless her and they say this, may you take the cities of your enemies, the exact wording is, would you essentially take hold of the gates or own the gates of your enemies or those who are against you? When Abraham goes to offer Isaac and God stops him, God reaffirms the covenant, and he says this back in 22. If you want to pull that up in 17. He says, I will surely bless you. I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars in the heaven and on the sands, that is the seashores, thousands of thousands, and your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies. The promise to Abraham is that you are going to be blessed, that you are going to take all of this land, who currently actually are, many of them are your foes. This is then the promise in 22. In 23, he finally gets a piece of the land at what location? Where does he get it? Where does the deal get struck? At the very city gates. And then as Rebekah is found, is this God moving along through his providence, the blessing to her is that would you be the mother of thousands, and then would you even possess the gates of your enemies? It's a fascinating to look of how is God completing the story? Is he going to be faithful? What's going to happen to the land? Oh, yes, we get to see it. What's going to happen to the chosen child? Oh, the wife is coming. It ends with her traveling back, him in the field praying, meditating, and it just so happens once again that as he's out there, he looks in the distance and he sees her coming, and she's like, who's that? To the servant. The servant's like, that's the guy I was telling you about that I drew in the sand. Like, he's handsome. This is the husband. And it says then they get married. She comforts Isaac with the death of his mother. And this happens then when he is essentially 40. And he finally has a wife. Chapter 25 reads a lot like genealogies. It is with the death of Abraham. Abraham finally dies. It talks about that he took another wife or had concubines, had other children that became other nations, which is kind of weird. It then says that he dies and Isaac and Ishmael come back together to bury their father where? Well, in the cave from the field from Ephron. And then we get a whole genealogy of Ishmael and his descendants. And it's just kind of jarring that it's put there. But what then again, many commentaries, theologians go, what is happening is this epilogue of what's going to happen to the land. We get a taste test of the promise being fulfilled. What's happening to the seed, the child, the chosen one? He is given a wife so that they can continue, God can continue that line. And then what about all the nations? Remember, the blessing was going to be, you will become the father of many nations, and then you will bless all of them. And so now you see this conclusion that through Abraham, all of these nations now are going to be fathered. So how do we conclude, maybe how do we wrap this up this morning? Band, you guys can come on up because we'll close here in a song. This chapter or chapters are striking because, again, all of the big climax has already happened. And now you see like all of these small things, or by chance or by luck, right? Like he just so happened to be able to secure the burial plot. It just so happened that when he went, Rebecca was there. And it's easy to see stories like this and see them in the Bible and go, oh yeah, God's working, his hand is in it. But then when we look at our own story, we get very frustrated. I get very frustrated with God because I want to see a massive miracle, right? Like I want to see a 100-year-old woman have a child, right? Like, whew, that would do it for me, right? Like I would believe. I want to see a burning bush. I want to see a Red Sea being parted. I want to see a kid brought back to life. I want to see an angel of the Lord come and stop me in mid-act from something he doesn't want me to do, right? Like, I want that. And then I look at my life and I sometimes think like, these things aren't like God is absent from all of this. Or this is just by chance or by luck. Even like I started thinking this week about like how I met my wife. My wife and I met at summer camp. We're summer camp, fling. My statement is we're a summer fling that turned into a long-term romance. That's my, like really nice way of putting it. But this summer camp we ended up with, she did not want to be there. She wasn't going to be there. She had an internship for her job, her career, which she was going to be in. And she was all set for that, and then it kind of like fell out from under her at the last second. And then she's like, okay, I guess I'll go to this camp because I've been there before. This is like my backup plan. So she goes to the camp that summer. I had been working at summer camps for a while, but the one that I had been working at, all new kind of management, ownership, leadership, and I needed to find a new summer camp. My friend, when I was at college, was like, hey, this guy's coming, he'll buy pizza, he's going to tell us about camp, do you want to come? I'm like, free pizza is better than what I get in the cafeteria. So yes, I'll come. So I show up to that. He had pizza and double stuffed Oreos. I'm not kidding. And it was like New York style pizza because I was on the East Coast. So a little better than Little Caesars. But that's what drew me in there. He's like, we got a great camp. You should come to it. And so I was like, yeah, sure. Like I need a place to go. So I end up going there. There's 60 plus leaders or like college leaders there. There's a lot of, guys and girls. And it was really because then my best friend at that camp and her best friend kind of had a little fling. And so we were like following them along because it's like, I guess we got to be friends because our friends are making out in the woods. But neither one, like we weren't looking for anything, right? Like Melissa did. Well, she was very upset that she had to be at camp that summer. And she was not looking to be married to a pastor. Like, there's just all of these things. And you could go, all of those are by chance or by luck. How you end up in the house you're in. For many of you, that's a story. How you ended up in Toledo, that's a story. How you ended up at Anchor Church or sitting in the seat you're sitting in, we so often can push that to going like this is just luck or by chance. But in Scripture, luck and chance are not rivals to God's plan. They're ways that we describe things we don't understand. This is why so often, and we took the exercise of looking back at God's faithfulness, sometimes it's easier to see, oh, actually God was working through very ordinary ways, through even the mundane, to orchestrate something for my life. We need to see that, to look back on that, to recognize that, because then when we're in the moment, that it's like, there is no taste test. I'm ready, but there isn't one. Like, when are you going to be faithful? When is this promise going to be fulfilled? When are you going to work? And all of these random things are happening. Can we sit in those type of moments? And can we sit and go, man, God is faithful in my life. He will continue to be faithful for the rest of time. And Abraham's conclusion of the story this morning is that he's faithful, that he will continue to be faithful. And it's wrapping up all of these promises before they move on. So can I just ask you to do one thing this morning? Would you reflect on God's faithfulness in your life, understanding it is not by chance, it is not by dumb luck, that God is working in the ordinary for your good? Would you see that, understand that? And then John's going to invite us to just sing again the song we sang about his faithfulness and how he is unlike anyone else, the God that we worship who is faithful.